Hello gamers, this is Jeremy aka JB Huskers and welcome to Game Changers Fantasy Focus. This is going to be your weekly show. We're going to showcase some of the top performers of the fantasy football world and some free agent waiver wire pickups for you to grab in your league. We're going to start it off here with the top 5 scoring performers of this week, and here we go. The top fantasy performer for week 1 in the NFL is Houston Texans running back Arian Foster. At the end of the season last year, he took the job from Steve Slayton, and this week is proof that he's not going to look back. He set the Texans record with 231 rushing yards, he had 3 touchdowns, and the second most rushing yards on opening day, second to only O.J. Simpson. When you have an 89-yard touchdown reception like the one you see here, you should definitely be in the top 5 fantasy performers. And in week 1, Matt Forte did have that 89-yard catch, totaling 201 total yards of scrimmage, a career best, along with 2 touchdowns in the controversial win over the Detroit Lions. This places Forte at the number 2 fantasy performer slot for week 1. A man that is no stranger to being a fantasy top performer, Peyton Manning of the Indianapolis Colts, had a monster game, 433 yards, 3 touchdowns. Of course, this was all playing catch-up as Arian Foster was running all over the Indianapolis Colts. But playing catch-up did earn Peyton Manning the 3rd best slot for fantasy performers for week 1. Middle to late round sleeper on a lot of people's draft boards, number 88 of the New York Giants, Hakeem Nicks, comes in at number 4 in the top performers for week 1 on the NFL fantasy football circuit. He only had 4 catches but made the most of them because 3 of those 4 catches came in for touchdowns. Continue to look for this combination all throughout the year as Eli Manning loves to air it out. Rounding out the top 5 for top fantasy performers in week 1, it's no surprise, Chris Johnson of the Tennessee Titans, taken number 1 overall in a lot of the leagues this year. He comes through as usual, 142 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Now, can he get to that 2,000-yard plateau? Nobody's ever done it back-to-back, but Chris Johnson is off to a very good start. We are now going to take a look at some of the players that may be available on the waiver wire. Check your free agent pool. Make sure these guys are available if they are. You would definitely want to grab them as soon as you can. The first one is going to be Mike Vick from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, once Kevin Kolb went down with an injury, a concussion, Mike Vick stepped in and almost led the Eagles in a great comeback against the Green Bay Packers. Vick totaled 103 yards on the ground, but more surprisingly was 16 of 24 in the air for 175 yards and a touchdown. If Kolb is out for any extended amount of time, you definitely want to look into picking up Mike Vick. Our next waiver wire pickup comes from the Oakland Raiders. It is a guy that I had tabbed as a draft day sleeper, and he turned out to be great in week 1. His name is Darren McFadden of the Oakland Raiders. Last week, he had rushed for 95 yards, along with 55 receiving yards and a touchdown. Since Bush had the injury, McFadden was able to fill in nicely. He's going to make a great pickup out of the waiver wire. One of the most surprising performances of week 1 comes out of the St. Louis Rams. Mark Clayton, wide receiver. He has obviously earned some instant rapport with the rookie quarterback Sam Bradford. He was able to tally up 10 catches for 119 yards. Sam Bradford's already had some impressive performances within the preseason. A decent performance against the Cardinals in a 17-13 loss in week 1. So as Sam Bradford starts to learn more in the NFL game, I think Mark Clayton is going to be the target to go to. Somewhat of a surprise in week 1 was the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback David Garrard. In week 1, he tossed 3 touchdown passes, only had 170 yards. However, the big surprising part of that was Michael Sims-Walker was held without a catch the entire game. If Garrard's able to find enough targets to get 3 touchdowns in a game without even getting Sims-Walker involved in the offense, just imagine he may be able to really take off once Sims-Walker and him get on the same page. Our final waiver wire pickup here for week 2 is going to come out of the Detroit Lions rookie running back Jahvid Best. Now, he didn't have an impressive yardage total. He only got 20 yards out of 14 carries. But of course, you know, in fantasy football, a lot of things that matter are when you score touchdowns. 2 touchdowns for Jahvid Best on the ground. He also caught 5 balls, only 16 receiving yards. But if it's in a point per reception league, it's definitely worthy of looking up Jahvid Best. And that'll wrap up the very first episode of Game Changers Fantasy Focus. Make sure you check out the rest of the blog below, as we're going to take a look at some Week 2 sim stats from Madden NFL 11 and also from NFL.com. And if you have any fantasy questions, make sure to email GameChangersFantasyFocus@gmail.com.